It is Dr. V here with Morning Infusion with Dr. V podcast, where we are intentional about teaching nurses how to work from anywhere around the world, making money and owning your own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. You will hear from amazing guests that have grown their companies and want to share insight into how you can do the same to change the face of healthcare as we know it. If you want to grow your businesses and leverage your knowledge as a nurse to grow wildly successful businesses at the top, instead of working your way to the top, head on over and join our Millionaire Nurse CEO group on Facebook, where you can ask questions and get updates on our live and virtual events to help you grow your businesses. So good morning, everyone. So this morning, I'm super excited because I've got Dr. Shay Smith here. So first of all, before we do that, I want you to like, share, comment, subscribe, okay? So if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on Spotify or Apple, if you could download the episode, subscribe to the show, comment, leave us a review that gets the message out, because we have some amazing nurses who are doing amazing things, and we really want to get the message out. So if you are a friend of the nurses, or if you're a nurse, just do all that, okay? So now, Dr. Smith, so tell us a little bit about who you are in your own words.
Good morning. So as Dr. B said, I am Dr. Shay Smith. I am a dual certified nurse practitioner, women's health nurse practitioner, and adult primary care. I also have a DNP. My passion is public health, birth control, STDs, and writing books to increase health literacy.
I love it. So one of the things that we talked about just before coming on, because for me, people already know that I absolutely did not want to become a nurse. Was exposed to engineering, wanted to become an engineer, but that was a whole debacle. My mom was like, nah, that's not what we're doing. So anyway, so you actually wanted to become a nurse, right? Correct?
Yes, eventually. So originally I wanted to become a dentist because I love teeth. I'm kind of like obsessed. I've had braces twice, Invisalign, like I love teeth. So that was my original dream. However, dream deferred. My granddad was like, no, I don't think you can do that because you don't know how to mask your facial expressions if somebody come in with stank breath or bad teeth. So put that on the back burner. And my mom was a pharmacy tech. So she was like, why don't you become a pharmacist? They make good money. I was like, okay, I can't be a dentist anyway. I'll do pharmacy. So that was my major going into undergrad. She got me a job working in the pharmacy in Walgreens. The first 2 weeks or so, I cried every day because I hated it. It was so boring. I did not care nothing about counting pills, packaging up. No. So that next semester, I switched my major to nursing.
So now, how did you go from dentist to pharmacy to nursing? So
dentist was my passion. Nope, that's not the path. My mom wanted me to be a pharmacist because of the money. Found out that wasn't it. Actually, in school, I read an article about working in the NICU. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. So then I changed my major to become a nurse so I could work in the NICU.
I love it. Okay. So now, I don't know what your grandfather was thinking when it came to nursing or pharmacy, because I mean, you still got to mask your facial expressions, right?
Exactly. And that's so funny because I'm women's health nurse practitioner. So I'm looking at people's vaginas and penises all day anyway. I'm like, I could have been a dentist.
Exactly.
This is way worse than looking at somebody's mouth. But it worked out.
I bet you it's way more exciting, though.
It is. I'm sure.
Listen,
we meet some characters.
Stories that I have heard that I'm just like, who What happened now?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you some stories for days. I'm sure.
People live all kind of lifestyles. You'd be surprised. So I'm not even shocked anymore. I'm like, oh, okay.
Just as long as y'all don't get fighting up in here. Wait to get bit.
We have that too.
Oh yeah, I have.
We have a lot. Well, not a lot. It happens more than it should. You know, baby mamas, baby daddies, girlfriends coming up, and it's another side. It's a lot.
One thing that surprises me though is that, like, when you are in that space, one of the things is that you have to understand that that person. It's the craziest thing to me, because what I think about is that person that is coming in. That person is a person that the other person invited in, right? And so then they get mad, like if it's, two guys or two girls, like, two girls get mad with the other girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's coming in when the reality is that he invited her in. So, I mean, what we're doing here? Are you going to get mad at him or you going to get mad at her? It doesn't make sense to me.
It's always misplaced anger.
Yeah.
It's never on the person who you need to be mad at.
Craziest thing. Okay, so let's go back to your childhood. Now, you were the oldest of 7 children.
Oldest of 7. My mom has 7, and then my dad has another 2 after they got divorced.
Okay, and so now
really it's 9 of us.
Okay, 9 of you. Okay, now tell me a little bit about, you said that your dad at that when you were younger he was on drugs.
He was. So he is clean now. I think I've been out of school 14 years, at least 14, 15 years. Thank the Lord. But while I was growing up, he's been, addicted to drugs, in and out of rehab. Just it was rough for us growing up. So essentially, while my mom was married, she kind of was a single parent. I mean, he was there physically, but not there mentally or anything.
So when did you first find out that he was on drugs? Like, when did you first realize that?
I was probably 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
It's, in the Black household, they'd be like, stay out of grown folks' business. But I was always in grown folks' business, so I would listen to them talk. So that's how I found out. And I would write him letters, begging him to know, just, can you please stop? I'll do whatever it takes, to help you feel better. 6, 7 years old, you don't really understand addiction. It's not about me. It's, something he has to be ready to do.
So it's interesting that you wrote a letter instead of sitting down and talking with him. So why did you choose to write a letter? Because that's probably what led you into this writing the children's books. But go ahead.
I never thought about that. I don't know. I feel like maybe I just get my words and thoughts across better in a letter. Because now that I'm thinking about it, whenever I wanted something out, I would just write a letter to the adults and, state my case.
I love it. I love it. It's interesting because now that I think back because people who know me, like me, our parents were married for 62 years. They were married for a long time before they passed away. And one of the things that when my mom was like she was my ace. Like she, you always have that parent that you're closer to. I was just closer to my mom, right? And I remember it was one time that she was doing something that I just really didn't like. And so I wrote her a letter too, very similar in the way in which you did. And I think that the reason why I did that was because I just felt like I couldn't, like, she ain't gonna listen to me if I do this. And I was scared, like the backlash, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got it across in a letter. So that's interesting that you did that. Now you go into nursing.
Mm-hmm.
You start off nursing. Where did you start out at? Like, what was your first jobs?
My first nursing job was on the oncology infectious disease unit at a hospital. I did that for a little over a year. And within those first 5 or 6 months of starting on the floor, I said, oh no, I do not want to do this. This confirmed it. I never wanted to work in the hospital anyway, but working on the floor, I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I don't like taking orders from people, well, the doctors, and not being able to spend a decent amount of time with the patients. I feel like I was just, med pass assessment on to the next. So that's when I applied for NP school at Emory. Once I got accepted to there, I worked at a residential pediatric mental and behavioral health facility until I graduated. So I think I was there about a year and a half. And then once I graduated, I started at the health department.
And when you started at the health department, so originally you wanted to do NICU, correct?
Yes. So in nursing school, we did have a rotation in the NICU, and I didn't like it. It was too sad because that hospital was one of the trauma hospitals or NICU. So I went to school in Tallahassee. People from, South Georgia and the rural areas, they would have to leave their babies there, and circumstances wouldn't allow them to visit them every day, or, and the babies were so small and sick. I just felt like I wouldn't be able to have good mental health and balance once I left work. So I decided that wasn't for me.
Yeah, one of the things about babies, and this was just in the emergency department when I worked there, is that it was always really, really tough, right? Taking care of babies, and really, especially whenever they were in really, unhealthy situations.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I remember this one kid came in, and it was on Mother's Day, and I remember it so specifically because the call came across, and it was Mother's Day, and I remember thinking, oh my God, this kid has, passed away. And so we did everything. We probably, and what you do. And I think one thing that is not realized outside of healthcare is that you work on children, because children are typically really resilient, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will tip, but they will come back, and you gotta watch them whenever they tip, right? Because they'll climb up that mountain, and they'll look good, and they'll look good, and they'll look good, and then when they get close to the top, then it's like, well, they don't look good no more. we gotta go in, and we gotta make sure, And so we probably worked on this kid for about 2.5 hours, and he unfortunately passed away. And I remember going into the next room, and it was really emotional. I remember, because I was a charge nurse at that time, so I wasn't actively working on the kid. I remember going into that next room and just praying.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do know is that, we can pray as much as we would like, but the reality is that whenever you have I'm a firm believer that God knows the time of your birth and the time of your death. And so those things, because I worked in the emergency department so long, that we just can't control that, right? And so it was a rough time. So I can fully understand that. Now, you go to the health department,
Mm-hmm.
and you start working with the women. Okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about why did you start doing that, or was that the game plan from the very beginning?
So after I decided I didn't want to work in the NICU, we did a rotation at the health department, and I fell in love with it. There was actually a Black NP there, so I spoke to her a little bit. I had never heard of nurse practitioners before, even going to a Black nursing school. They never mentioned it. So I really enjoyed that. I actually became a patient there so I can get on some birth control. And I was like, this is where I want to be. So it took me 3 years after graduating nursing school, but I finally ended up at the health department, and I loved it. I worked in family planning, maternity, and the STD clinic. I don't know, it's just been like an amazing ride. I meet people from all walks of life, young teenagers to 40, 50-year-olds. I do IUDs, Nexpanons, Copos, found out that syphilis was not a
Wait a minute.
disease of the past.
You got to tell the people what you're talking about. Okay, you do.
The colposcopy. So after, well, if you have a pap smear and it's abnormal,
Mhm.
depending on the results, we do a diagnostic test, which is a colposcopy. We look at the cervix for any abnormalities, and then if we see any, we take a biopsy and send it off to the lab.
Now, tell me, and one of the things that I have found, and unfortunately, is that sometimes there are some women who struggle, okay, with get going back in the follow up, right? In the follow up, because what happens is like there's probably at least, over my career, probably about 5 women that I have, run into, and it's been a long career, obviously, but 5 women that I have run into that did not follow up and ended up dying of ovarian cancer. So tell me, what do you think the mindset is of the person who comes in and they don't follow up like they should?
They're scared. They're scared of the results. I've heard anywhere from, I don't want to know because once I know, then I have to do something about it. Or they have fears and anxiety around the actual procedure. Maybe they heard that it hurts, or they'd be down for a certain amount of time and they can't take that time off from work, or they have a family to take care of. And then they sometimes it's the financial reasons as well. I'm at the health department, so more than likely it's going to be covered, but that's been like the top 3 reasons.
Gotcha. And have you seen anyone pass away because of them not following up?
Knock on wood, no, not
Good.
yet. So I'm really annoying to the patients. Like I will call you back to back to back to back. I will text you, and I'm going to get you back into the clinic, or you're going to tell me why you're not coming back. I just need that continuum of care. So more than likely, I get them back for follow up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. So you have a systematic process, and once you follow up with them, and that's in any business, right? You have to have a systematic process in which you follow up with your clients and making sure that they are coming back and doing what they need to do. So I love it that you're advocating for them because they need somebody to advocate for them.
Right. And while they're in the clinic, I take a little bit more time than I probably should, but I do try to talk to them, really educate them really well, and tell them why these tests are important, why the follow up is important, and just convey that, I'm not just here to do a job. Like I actually care about your health and your well being, and I want to see you succeed and be healthy. So I think that helps a little bit. And when I type my notes, I typically type something personal about them so that the next visit I can bring it up and, kind of establish that rapport with them.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love how you do that. That is great. Now, you during the pandemic, you had an aunt that you lost.
I did.
And so tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about this aunt and tell me a little bit about that.
So this is actually my great aunt. My mom is the only child, so I don't have any, regular aunts. She would be maybe like no, I was gonna say second mom, but she was just my favorite aunt. I would live with her intermittently to go to school. My mom moved to Atlanta, so I wanted to stay with her so I could stay in Miami and finish school. She was just one of the realest people would know. Super smart. I feel like I got my love for reading and books from her. So whenever I go to her house, I would raid her bookshelf and steal her books. She was just one of my favorite people in the world.
And what happened?
Um, this was May 2021. She went in for a simple procedure and didn't make it out. Like she was getting ready to be discharged, and went to the bathroom, and apparently she just never came out. we don't know what happened. Her daughters didn't want an autopsy or anything, so I have no idea.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, now tell me a little bit about um, you, because you mentioned that you had a love for books and you got the love from books from her, right? And so then you started writing books. What made you start writing books?
I've always liked writing. I remember back in the second grade, I entered a writing contest. Um, I think the story is about a little boy who got abducted, and it went dark. But I've always loved writing. Um, so I would start, writing poems and little stories here and there, but I didn't get serious about it until 2020, 2021. I published my first coloring book called My Patients Made Me Do It, and it's for nurses and healthcare providers. Um, and then I don't know how this happened because this is not my intention. I started writing children's books. So the first children's book I wrote was called What Type of Nurse Can I Be? Exploring Nursing Careers from A to Z. And it's all Black nurses because I really want to see more Black children get into nurses, decrease these health disparities, and we just need more representation. I've been going to schools and libraries and doing presentations, and when I ask the kids what do they want to be, they're saying NBA, well, basketball player, football player, things of that nature. And I'm like, that's not a viable thing for everyone. You need a fallback plan. You need something more stable, reliable. So I think that's what got me into it.
And that's key, because one of the things that I have seen, I remember, and this was probably during the time that I was going back to get my master's, and I was following one of the nurse leaders. And so I went into the C-suite, right? And
Mhm.
they were having this meeting, and it was an inclusion and diversity meeting. And normally I wouldn't be invited into these meetings, right? But I was invited into this particular meeting with this inclusion and diversity person from the big hospital that we were a part of. And I remember going in there and sitting down, and she started talking about how, the community in which I'm in is 50% African American, and that because of that, the C-suite should represent that, and there were
Mhm.
nothing but white people in there except for me and her, right? And so I remember thinking, this is not a representation, and I remember thinking that should be a targeted effort to have people that are at the helm to
Mhm.
help with those disparities, because if you don't have, I always say that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And so there needs to be a targeted effort to have these people at the table. And I remember it really, really coming to fruition one day when I had this patient that came in. The patient came in and she had all white people around her bed, and she was having a STEMI, and which, for everybody who doesn't know, is a ST elevating MI, myocardial infarction, which is, in other words, a heart attack. But she was tombstoning, which means that it was a really, really bad heart attack.
Mhm.
And I went to her room, and I remember, because I was supervised at the time, so when I went to her room, I was just there to monitor, just to make sure that everybody had everything that they had. And I walked in the room, and I remember her saying, "Come here." And so I went over to her bed, and I got to her bed, and she was like, I need to go home. And I said, "Well, you can, but you probably won't make it back." I said, "So, what can I do in order to ensure that you don't?" And she explicitly told me that she did not trust the people that were around her bed. And I said, "They're helping you. They're helping you." And so, I was like, "I'll hold your hand through the process in order to get you to the cath lab." But the reality is that she probably would have walked out, right, had I not shown.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we got her up to the cath lab, and she had an inclusion of her LAD, and that is what they call a widowmaker. And so the reality is that if she'd have walked out, she wouldn't have made it back.
Mm-hmm.
So the representation is absolutely something that we need. So I'm glad that you are doing that. So now, what do you do for other people who want to write their own books? So are you helping them write their own books?
So ideally, the book will already be completed. I could help with the editing process, and then finish out the publishing process. But ideally, the book would already be written.
Gotcha.
My specialty is children's books. It's just how the Lord made it. But yeah, we help with the editing and publishing.
Gotcha. Which is where, listen, I need the whole help right here. Okay. Now, what made you, I'm going to ask you this too. What made you go back to get your DNP?
Honestly, I was bored. There was no other reason. No, I was bored. I needed something to do. They say Black women just get bored and go get degrees. That's really what happened.
Well,
There's no deep reason.
I was not bored at all. I was good. All right. But I thought that I needed to get all those degrees in order to climb the corporate ladder, which I didn't even want to. I found out what was behind the scenes, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Once I graduated, or right before I graduated, my boss was like, we're not paying you no more money, right? And I was like, okay. I mean, I wasn't really doing it for the money, but good to know. So yeah, it didn't help me.
So we have, at the end of every podcast, we have some rapid fire questions. So let's go through these rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yes.
So what has been the most rewarding thing about nursing?
I would say the connections with the patients, especially the teens. I love working with my teen girls. I started a teen clinic at a school for pregnant and teen moms, and that's my favorite.
I love it. I love it. And what are some of the things that you get from that?
I just love pouring into them, especially the teens. They need guidance and mentorship. It's a lot of negative influences right now. They may not have it at home. So just being a positive role model in their life. And I work with a lot of minorities. So I want them to see that you don't have to stay in your circumstances. You can do other things and be greater than what you see around you.
I love it. That representation is huge. Now, what are some common misconceptions about nursing?
I would say that it's easy, that we make a lot of money, that we don't know anything. What else? I think those would be the big three that I've heard.
Very common. Very common. Listen, we are the conduit between you and that doctor, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If that doctor orders something that you don't need, we are the people that we are it. So tell me, what are you reading now?
Right now, I am reading a book called The Bait of Satan. It's been really good. Now there's another one. I'm into Christian books right now. I'm trying to get my life together. And Prayer, Experiencing Awe and Intimacy with God by Timothy Keller. I just started that one last night. It's been really good.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So have you ever read Bamboozled by Jesus?
Yes, I did.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. The audible form is amazing, amazing. So now, who is a leader, living or dead, that you would like to have a conversation with?
Leader, I've always loved Oprah since a little girl. She reminds me of my aunt. So I just want to soak up her wisdom. She came from nothing and became the richest Black woman in the world. She has a whole empire.
Right.
I need to talk to her.
She was a representation for me. I was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it too. I was like, yes. And it's interesting that when I ask that question, there's several people who have had the same answer over.
Mhm.
So, what is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can. Who's
It's with Leonardo DiCaprio. He is a swindler. He's pretending to be like a airplane pilot and all kind of stuff. He's into fraud. It sounds bad, but it's a really intriguing movie.
So, what did you like about the movie?
Just how his mind works. Like he thought of all this to get to a lifestyle that he didn't have when you really could have just
Done it the right
get
way.
the legit right. I mean, you were super smart, obviously.
So now, how do you define success?
Um, Today I define success as peace, joy, happiness.
I love it. And what is your life's motto?
Um, Prosperity is my birthright.
Mm, I love it. It is your birthright. Absolutely. I love it. Okay. Well, Dr. Shay, it has been a pleasure having you here and
Thank
on
you.
the platform. So tell the people how they can find you if they want a publishing agency.
I am on Instagram at Dr. Shay Smith, exactly how it sounds, or you can go to www.murielshouse.com.
All right. Muriel's, spell that out.
Murielshouse.
Okay.
All
All right, cool. All right, so again, ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you like, share, subscribe. If you're on Apple or Spotify, leave us a comment, write a review, okay? Because we want to get this message out of the Millionaire Nurse CEO podcast to everyone, okay? So I encourage you to do all that because we have some amazing nurses on here, okay? We are just we doing up the thing, okay? And so, thank you, Dr. Shay Smith, for being on. And you, ladies and gentlemen, have an amazing rest of your day. Bye bye.